Sam have come from Jess Arabian Ranches School to talk to you today about how to set up a library with limited resources. Our experience, our background is that we're both teachers, or were teachers in days gone by, and we've sort of decided we really wanted to encourage children to read, to promote literacy within the school, to really make it a focal point. And so both of us have the experience of a teaching background and library background. I think between us about 20 years, probably. We're not here to say the way we do it is the best way, and we're not here to say the way we do it is the only way, but it's the way that it's worked well in all the schools that we've worked in, because, as you probably know very well, libraries always tend to have a very limited budget. They tend to be the first thing that gets cut when there are cutbacks to be made, and they tend to be quite low down, unfortunately, on some of the targeted lists that the management team sometimes come up with. So we are all very well aware how we need to really pull together non-expensive resources to make the library a really engaging and a place that children really, really want to come to. I should go to my next slide. I've shamelessly stolen this from a Dubai librarian, sort of a web-based sharing site. This is the book display, I believe, from Winchester School. And they've obviously got fantastic bookshelves because we all want children to be able to read. That's the whole point of a library. It's the whole point of having children come in. So I just thought that was a wonderful display that they've come up with, and lots of librarians in Dubai are extremely jealous of that wonderful bookshelf that they've got up there. So we're here to try to discuss how we have set up, how we have set up a primary library with a small budget. And these are the essentials. I think the first thing is to have staff who are extremely enthusiastic. Ideally qualified, ideally with experience, but enthusiasm and energy really is the absolute key. So if you're looking for somebody to work in your library at your school, or you're looking for somebody to spearhead promoting reading in your school, you really need the librarian to be extremely enthusiastic about his or her job, because kids will pick up on that immediately. There is no child that I've ever met who will not come into a library and will not sit and listen, absolutely engaged, if the person that's talking to them, reading them stories, telling them stories, is fully engaged and enthusiastic. So that would be my absolute first thing. Whoever is spearheading your library, whoever is running your library, obviously needs to love books and love reading, and to keep up to date with what the children are reading, what the children are talking about, the books that they really want to have in the library. I'm constantly having children come up saying, "Oh, Mrs. McGrain, please, have you got the latest Horrid Henry book? I saw a great book in the bookshop last weekend, have you got it in?" More often than not, I don't, but I know if I get a bit of money, I've got a list, and I can make sure if I've got the money, I can go and buy the book and then tell the students, you know what, that book you asked for last week, last month, I've got it in, and it's on the shelf, it's waiting for you. It's really important with your staff, if you've got a larger school, to make sure you have specialists. So sort of my area is early years. So my teaching background is sort of early years 4 to 8, but I do currently engage with children between the ages of 3 and 11. And Sam's background again is primary, but she looks after the secondary part of the school and the IB curriculum, and her skill set is in that area. We also try and use talents for the whole teaching staff in the school. So the French teacher, for example, we have a small section of French books, so the French teacher will come in and read stories in French. We have a dual language Arabic section. We use the Arabic members of staff to come in with children right from foundation, when they're 3, all the way up to year 6, to do storytelling. The big thing that I've sort of done when I've been at Arabian Ranches, which is the last 3 years, is try and improve the environment of it to make it really, really colourful. Again, it doesn't need to be particularly expensive. Materials, cloth from, shops in Satworth to be made up into big floor cushions, bright primary colours. I make sure the walls have got really bright backing paper. I've got rugs that I put over chairs just to make it really engaging and snuggly. I've had kids bring donations of teddy bears in, so when they're sitting reading a book, they come in and they can snuggle up and read with their teddy bears. It's nice to have displays up in your library if you've got the luxury of having a display area, which you can change regularly to promote whichever books that you want to promote, or a particular author, or if you're doing, maybe year 5s are doing a topic, that maybe you can put up books to promote whatever stock you have for that area. And we often get displays in from the classrooms. So, for example, I remember year 4 doing a book on the Hodgehog by Dick King-Smith, and they brought in all their artwork for it. And we made a really nice display in the library on that. So that's a really important thing, so the children see the crossover between the classroom work and that it's important to display it in the library and to talk about it in the library as well. When it comes to book stock, I do think it's important to have demarcated areas, whatever your space. You can have a very small hallway for your library, you can have a purpose-built room, or you can have a specially designed library. But the arrangement and the layout of your stock will be critical in the children knowing where they can go to choose the books they're interested in. So we have a large picture book section, which we really, really focus on. Then we have sort of a non-fiction section, which is in specially labelled wooden boxes, which have a picture on the book of what the topic is, and we have a picture on the box that matches the picture on the book. So the children, if they're looking for space books, know to go to the space box. If they're looking for books on animals, they know to go to the animals box because it's got a big picture of a tiger or a dolphin on it. So they're sort of making those early connections. When they get older, Key Stage 2 in our school, so that's sort of years ages 7 and 8, then they go onto the Dewey Decimal System and they use numbers to identify which non-fiction areas they need to be in. But I think it's really important to start labelling the books very early on, so there's some connection with books. All books have an address in the library and they all live in a certain place. Same with fiction, we have those demarcated very, very clearly. How do you maximise what you have? Sam is going to take over for this bit and talk about fundraising and the important things like book donations.
Can I keep you off? Oh no, I don't need the paper. Okay, we are actually quite fortunate at Jess. We are quite well funded, but even having said that, we do have to think of creative ways that would help us enhance what we have, and these can apply to your library no matter what size it is, no matter where it is, and hopefully the next few slides will give you some ideas of things that you might like to try in your library. So first of all, generating resources. How can you do this if you don't have any more money? You've spent all your money by halfway through the year and you want to come up with some inventive ways of creating or generating more resources. So some things that you can do are things like getting a book and bake sale organised. Now, a lot of these ideas rely on having quite a supportive faculty and also a supportive parents group, and I don't know whether that's possible in your schools, but we do at Jess have a really good parents group, and they are very much behind the library and supporting us. So you can do things like the book and bake sale. Another idea is for children when they have a birthday. This comes from another school that I used to work in. We were not very well resourced, and each time a child, no matter what year group they were in, every time they had a birthday, they went out with their mum and dad and they purchased a book, which they then donated to the library. Now, this may not fit particularly well with some schools' ethoses and philosophies, but it is a very fun and unique way of giving the children some ownership of the books that are in their library. So that's another idea you could try. I already mentioned the JPG or your school board. Perhaps you feel comfortable banding together with other staff members in your school and writing a proposal or going to a meeting to try and generate some more funds from within your school for resources. Your teachers that you work alongside are very good allies for doing something like this. And you may find that you want to keep, as Caroline suggested, not only lists of books that the children want, but lists that your teaching staff are asking you for that perhaps you don't have. And so if you can keep a list generated throughout the year, perhaps then that will put you in a strong position at the end of the year when your budget's being renegotiated, that you can present it to your SMT and ask for more money because we don't have any books on astronomy or whatever it happens to be. You can also try inviting external providers in. Some book fairs can be very successful for raising funds and resources for your school. I haven't actually done one myself while I've been at Jess, but I think they have happened there in the past, and I think they were quite successful. So that's a couple of ideas there. The other thing you can do, obviously, is try and utilise volunteers. Now, we are very, again, fortunate at Jess that we have lots of parent help. It can fluctuate, but if you can get a parent who has some time on their hands and would like to help you with processing your books, that's putting the labels on, covering them, putting the date due slips and so on, that can be a really good way to free up your time. And it's a great crossover for getting parents on board with what you're doing in your library, and they can become strong allies for you. If your parents have skills in certain languages, or they are available to help with story times or something like that, there's all sorts of things you can do. If someone is a calligrapher, you could invite them in. If they have different skills that they could offer, then there's great ways to incorporate them into what you're doing in the library. Lucky, our school does consider the library to be the heart of the school, and I know that is the case in most schools too, but you still have to be consistently and continuously promoting the library and what you're offering, the new books you have, programs that you're running, all that sort of thing. Because if you sit back and do nothing, you know, you're not helping yourself, I suppose, is a blunt way of putting it. So, as I already mentioned, involving parents or other members of your school community coming in for story times or a cookie and milk after school story time. You can do things like a summer reading program. We have a reading passport that children in primary and secondary both complete over the summer, and that's a really, really valuable way of keeping children reading over the summer break and keeping that momentum going. I already mentioned inviting parents or other members of the community in to enhance what you're doing. Caroline mentioned the teddy bears, and having a teddy bears picnic is another good way for that crossover. Children can read to the teddy bear. That teddy bear is not going to criticise or correct them, and it's a really nice interaction that can go on. And of course, we are great advocates of the Literature Festival, so we get behind as many of those events as we possibly can, and the great thing about them is that they're all free. It doesn't cost anything for your children to enter the writing competition. It doesn't cost anything for you to have an author into your school, and believe me, seeing children listening to a real live published author, it does amazing things. For the next 2 weeks you can't have one of those books written by that author on the shelf in your library. They're all out, and that just sparks another stream of love of reading and of literature. We also do at our school in both the oh yes, sure, Caroline, which was, it's just an idea. I've never done one. But I would suggest that the kids probably would come in with their teddy bear. You would maybe provide a nice rug or seating area. You could even take it outside. These activities don't have to happen only in the library. There's nothing wrong with taking a big box of books down to the preschool area, and you've done this, Caroline, and having a lovely story time. Or involving your Year 6 students with a younger buddy and having buddy reading times either in the library or down in the classroom. So I think the idea of the Teddy Bears Picnic, you could construct it however you like to make it work within your school. So we both have student librarians, was what I was about to say. So for Caroline's primary school, they are Year 6, and in my part of the library, they are Year 7s. And that's a really good way to involve the students, not only in the library, but again, to be your advocates, to help you promote reading, books, the love of literature, and they all do a fantastic job. And again, that just heightens your profile. If you're writing in your newsletter about all these different activities that you're doing in your library, and it's going home to parents via the school website, or it's going into the office and reception areas and parents can pick that up, you're doing great things for books and for reading and for your library. And you might think, well, that's something so little, but it's all those little things that add up and help enhance what you're doing. And again, that doesn't cost very much. If you want to put it on your website at your school, that doesn't cost you anything. Obviously, if you're going to print out lots and lots of them to give out, well, there is a cost associated with that. We have timetabled library sessions every week in primary, and I'll get Caroline to talk about that a little bit just at the end. I'll just finish off my little bit. I don't know if you know, but within Dubai there's a librarians network group, and it's very much an optional thing. You don't have to attend the meetings every month, but it's a group of like-minded people, just like yourselves, and you can go along and get lots of ideas, share questions and problems that you're having, and ask the others in the group to give you some input. So that's a very easy thing to join. You can Google it, or we can give you the information about that. I already mentioned topic book boxes to support the curriculum. Caroline does this all the time. And if possible, and where possible, attend any department meetings within your school, because again, it's you showing your face and raising the profile of your library, and you never know what ways the library might be able to be involved in something that's going on in your school, possibly in ways you haven't even thought of just now. And if you've got any questions, we're going to show you some resources that we've brought from school just to give you an idea of different things, and we can perhaps gather around there if you're not comfortable asking us a question in front of everybody. So I'll just hand back to Caroline so she can tell you about her class visits.
On the screen you can see my timetable. That's my weekly timetable. The white slots are obviously my sort of admin, my free time, but in those white slots it's not quite representative of what goes on. I'm often booked in for specialist reading groups for different year groups. So for example, you know, maybe there's a group of Year 2 children who are exceeding with their reading and they just need stretching slightly more. The teacher doesn't have time to take those 4, 6, 8 children to go and read with them, so they come to me for usually about 40 minutes once a week, just for about 6 to 7 weeks until we finished a particular book, and then they, you know, can join back in their normal timetable. I do that with years 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 throughout the year. So those white slots aren't quite as freed up as this would lead you to believe. All the pink slots are timetabled. All teachers need to walk their children across to the library, and the Key Stage 1 teachers, so that's the children from between the ages 3 to 6, they stay in the library. It's not a drop-off centre. They stay, they sit with the children, I read stories, all the children are allowed to take one book home. We have puppets out, we have soft toys. Sometimes the children in some of the older year groups would like to sit on the reading chair and they read to the rest of their class. So it's a very interactive time. When we get to the children who are sort of 7 and over, then the teachers walk them across, they're dropped off for a half-an-hour slot, and then the teachers come and pick them up. We do a variety of things, possibly if their topic is, say, I don't know, the Tudors, they'll come into the library, we look through books on Tudors, we look at websites, I've got some computers in the library, so we have structured activities for those children to further their research skills in the library, which is why it is so very important your heads of department and your colleagues, your teachers, keep you informed of what the students are actually studying, because, you know, when I get year 5s in, there's no point me looking at giraffes if actually their topic area is going to be, you know, Dubai culture, for example. They need to know where the books on Dubai culture are, and they need to know how to access them in the library and on the website in a safe and controlled manner. Now, my year 6s, I have for an hour every alternative week, and the reason for that is to help them with the progression to secondary school, where they're expected to do a lot more independent research. I sort of set a programme up where we cover very simple things like, you know, no cutting and pasting. That's just not allowed for when you're putting together a homework or a report, looking at sources, looking that they are starting to learn how to reference their work. And we also do a lot of interactive work. We look at different authors, particularly this term we're looking at the authors coming for the Literature Festival in March. Each student's given an author to research and to do a presentation on to the rest of the peers in assembly. So we do a lot of promoting of reading as well. It's much more skill based. It's much more information literacy with the year 6 students. I think unless you have that structure, if you had a blank timetable and you let teachers book slots in, you may find you're quite lonely, because I think a lot of teachers possibly would not, you know, come over every week with their class unless it was put and embedded in the timetable. So I do think that's crucial. Plus, you can keep an eye on all the children. We have a computer record so we can see exactly what books they've read, exactly what they've taken home. And with our year 5 and 6 students, we run what's called an accelerated reading programme, which you do pay for per student, but it is an online database of many, 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 many books. And so when the students have read a book in the library and they bring it back, and I say, did you enjoy that book? And they go, mm-hmm. And they say, can you tell me something about it? And they go, mm-hmm. You know they haven't read it. With Accelerated Reader Programme, it checks they've read it, because they have to log on to a computer and answer questions on the book they've just read. And I get sent a score of how those students have done. So you get a very, very clear idea of which students are avoiding reading books from beginning through to the end, and you get a very clear idea of which students are succeeding with their reading. So we do embrace that with our older students in the school, and I know Sam runs it with year 7s
and some 8s.
Some year 8s as well. This last slide is just a selection of useful links that me and Sam use in our library. We've actually made printouts which you can pick up a copy of down there. The School Policy and Advocacy, I generally use 2 UK-based websites. So if you're looking to go to your head teacher or your senior management team and you're wanting some very good evidence of why they should give your library more attention or possibly more money, then the SLA.org is really good. That's the School Library Association. You can just log on. You can look around the website. There is a cost element with that if you want to become a member, but there are things on the website you can look at without being a member. CILIP is the Chartered Institute of Library Information Professionals. In the UK, that's where a lot of librarians, you know, they get accredited by CILIP. That's got brilliant PDFs on it for school advocacy, for school libraries, school policy, planning. So that's a really, really good one to use. Coming down to the nitty-gritty of which books you should get in your library, I always use Love Reading for Kids.co.uk. It's a brilliant website where they put recently published books and older books, but you can look at book lists through age ranges. So if you're looking for book lists for, say, reluctant boy readers between the ages of 8 to 10, you can put that in the search term and it gives you a whole list of books that they recommend Julia Eccleston, I think, does the review for that, and she does a very, very good job. One of the things I've really pushed with a lot of English as a second language students in the school is something called Storynori. Storynori is completely free. It's downloadable stories, audio stories for students to listen to, because it just helps with their understanding of language, vocabulary and text. The stories are not designed for children under the age of 7, so it's ideal for children between the ages of 7 and 12. And it is a free resource, and you can download, there's like classic fairy tales, there are more modern stories, there are contemporary fiction on there, and it's a really, really good resource. Our teachers put it on at break time, so when students are eating snacks, on goes one of the Storynori stories. Some of them are just 20 minutes long, some of them go in sections, so maybe there's a story about a stock. So for our Arabic books and Middle Eastern books, we like to use Bazaar. They've got a great place where you can go and select books, and a really, really nice range. We use Bookworm bookstores in the Meadows and next to Jumeirah College near Park and Shop. They've got a brilliant range, especially picture books, and I tend to do my ordering from Magrudy's, and if I have to do a sort of a big book order for topic books, I tend to use Magrudy's. The last one on the list is Gresswell. They send out enormous catalogues, and they literally have everything from date stamps, stickers, bookshelves, bean bags, covering material, posters, bookmarks. I mean, I get everything from Gresswell if I can't get it in Dubai. And again, if you just look on that website, I think you can download an online version of the catalogue and have a look at it. Even if you're not going to order from them, it's a really good catalogue to look at to see the kinds of things you can get for your library. It's really, really an excellent resource. I think we've spoken enough now. That's the end of our presentation. Thank you so much for listening. Like Sam indicated before, we have brought a few things down with us. You're really, really welcome to come and take a look if you want, or ask any questions. Because it's quite a small number, it may be easier for you to come down, and me and Sam can be in this space, unless we've got any burning questions that anybody wants to ask now. Oh, okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to thank our presenters, Carolyn McGrain and Sam Buckley, for a very interesting and thought-provoking session. Thank you very much.
Welcome.